Welcome into the abode. All right, all right. Glad you're here. I really am glad you're here. I paused. Got to let that intro do its thing. So I was like, quit talking during the intro. I told myself, as I'm learning to editing and trying to get better at it, right? And it's okay. This is good stuff, right? I would like to get to a place to have better, definitely upgrade. Definitely would like to get to that place to be able to upgrade and go live and have people gather and let's just sharing, right? The care pack part of this, right? Care is huge, of what we do coming into this place. We are unity and love and appreciation and gratefulness as we all enter into this place, and we want to cast our energy into a place of accomplished flow of connecting on a plane of unity, Christ consciousness, unity conscious, higher consciousness, so we can actually start being in a place to know is to be in that creative place in that vein where we start really having and manifesting the energetic field and the power we actually do have, or we wouldn't be really in the place we are, because we really are watched over to be used for our energy for the creative forces of that which is outside of us in this reality of where we're at, what we do, how it works, and all that. And this is only going to be learned from our last word of the day: insightfulness, awareness. All these things are definitely from within, not external, outside of yourselves. Thinking there's this old Hindu Indian teaching, and it goes like this: that the people had wandered so far outside themselves they didn't know the direction to get back. We don't want that lost. You actually would go to the worst density of your reality now would be almost outside of yourself, material world stuff. You'd be like Madonna's perfect thing, a material world, material girl, material guy, just thinking the material's the all. Oh God, think about that. But wandering and not knowing your way back, that's heavy. We want to stay connected. We want to do the things we do to stay connected, but the awareness, bringing into our unity of the hemispheres or feminine and masculine energy. But I'm not going to hesitate because I got something good today. I told you my cookie crumbs are always going to lead you from one video to another, even if it's the songs, words of the day. If you're paying attention, that's why I'm looking for decoding power, which is always how does decoding work? It's always going to be pattern recognition. When you start having pattern recognition, your decoding is starting to your software within you is starting to be activated. Is being activated as we speak, right? So I got something to share. It's going to be a video. It's going to go something that I have used a few times, but we're going to get into it. We're going to find out what's this thing about. You may have heard me say it, the oversoul, right? You may have heard that speech by me, the oversoul. What the oversoul is, let's find out. Let's go in, right? Let's do this. Let's go. I will interrupt Miss Sarah when need be, but otherwise I'll let her, and then when I'm going to add to, I'll go in. All right.
For many going through a spiritual awakening, the concept of the oversoul is vague yet intriguing. So today I'm going to be explaining exactly what the oversoul means. The oversoul is one of those concepts that can mean several different things depending on exactly what paradigm we are perceiving it through. The oversoul typically is referring to the first emanation from the monad. So to understand what that means first, I have to explain what the monad is. In many different mystical traditions, the monad doesn't exactly transfer over, yet again, to exactly one final thing that is being referred to, but typically what the monad is when there was no differentiation between conscious or unconscious, no differentiation between duality, no differentiation even between light and dark.
Wow.
So that means it was gray. But the monad is this wholly sanctified, eternal, infinite state of pure potential, pure spirit. The best way to sum up the monad is as the unmanifested or the pre-manifested state of creation before it's even in creation. So it's also including the active side of infinity and the passive side of infinity. And we could look at it almost like residing more in the unmanifested, therefore passive side of the all. Nothing is outside of the circumference of the monad. That's why it is the absolute. But it is the absolute in a state of its singularity. So it has nothing to even become aware of because there is no reflection yet. So it is in a state of endless and boundlessness that also can be summed up in Vedic tradition as para-Brahman. So in this pre-beginning phase, there is no witness. There is nothing to witness. And when the witness is birthed to reflect upon its vastness, its pre-beginning, unmanifested state, that is what we call the logos. The first logos, to be precise, since there are some after that first logos. But that first reflection of the unmanifested,
Notice what she said, that first reflection. So within itself, it had nothing, it was just in a state of there. There's nothing to reflect on. There's nothing to compare. There's nothing to move in. And I take this as even scriptures, and I kind of mentioned this, and she kind of went into explaining it in the monad, because I always seen the monad as like that dot on a paper, right? You put a dot, right? You have the upside down, or the figure eight, which we know is like eternity, right? The eternity, or the figure eight, right? The figure eight track, right? The eight laid vertically down or laid horizontal down. And then the monad being just a dot almost of nothingness that births itself. And let her finish, but I was seeing this, I would kind of say it, God, there was something biblically we would say, and I've lost that thought. Let's just go back to her. It will come back to me.
manifested of the pre-beginnings, pre-beginning, now creates a witness. And that witness would be where creation stems from. Because after creation becomes aware of itself, that creates every other different emanation within creation. So you have the awareness of itself, the witness of its non-existent state, or its all absolute potential state, being reflected on. And that first reflection is what you could look at it, if you want to, ricochets. It bounces off of itself and then creates everything.
The fractal.
So from the
Ricochet.
monad, we get the dyad. The dyad is that relationship between the unmanifested state and that first reflection, that logos. And when the logos witnesses itself, reflects upon itself, that creates the triad, which is from the triad, everything else in creation gets created. So from the one comes the Trinity, and from the Trinity, every single other thing gets created from that Trinity. So in one sense of the term, we can consider the original and prime oversoul to be that first pre-reflection, the pre-beginning, which is known as the monad. And then when
I have not heard this, so it's not like I've heard this, but because I've known about the oversoul for a while, and if you paid attention, watch the videos, you may have seen me say it a few times, a handful of times. But I like how she explained it. It makes sense. It's kind of like from the beginning, pre even reflection, and then it kind of goes into wow, it's heavy. I got to hear some of this again.
The pre-beginning now reflects upon itself, becomes aware of itself,
Wow.
to witness its absoluteness and its eternal boundless nature. That creates another form of the oversoul called the dyad. Or we can look at it like the logos.
Okay.
And then from there creates the Trinity. So that act of witnessing itself creates a third awareness, which is what births all of life. And that's why we know in mysticism, spiritual traditions, and even religion, there's always some form of Trinity that is a part of creation. This is the prime way that the Trinity is playing out. And the oversoul being just the monad wouldn't really be the best way to describe what people are actually referring to when they're going through a spiritual awakening and they hear the term oversoul. Because we're not necessarily using that term oversoul in this one setup that I just described with the monad, the dyad, and the triad, or the Trinity. This is just the most absolute form of the oversoul. So if we want to get super technical, the oversoul would be the absolute. And then from there, all the different other rays of creation,
The fractals,
are also birthed. And each one of those rays is really the most accurate way of describing what we in the spiritual community call as the oversoul. So every individuated ray is its own oversoul. And every individuated ray, or if you would like to call it, every individuated emanation from the all. So this emanation that's pouring out of the all has its own unique perception. And that is what we know in the spiritual community today as the oversoul. We're referring to the oversoul being that individuated ray from the absolute.
Ooh,
And this individuated ray,
that individual ray would be kind of like somebody saying this light is where they came from, or is connected, or like I would say you have a connection to the oversoul, like almost like I even would see that like almost like your core, what's it called, your not spinal cord, but your umbilical cord spiritually, the invisible higher states of it is connected to that oversoul. That's how I would say it before, but definitely good stuff.
has its own intrinsic nature. It's still including all of the information that's within the monad of the all, but it's highlighting a certain attribute or a certain intrinsic part of nature that makes it unique. It makes it a creative essence that individuates that ray or that oversoul from another ray or another oversoul. So each different ray that pours out of the all, the absolute, the monad, is an oversoul that can all be traced back into that one singularity of the monad. So
the oversoul, the absolute, comes from that monet of the absolute. When nothing reflected nothing, that's why everything came from nothing. That makes sense. I see that. This is heavy because I'm wondering, I know I'm talking, let's listen to her, but this is what I'm going to say. I'm going to say it anyways, I'm there. I just it's a few words. Is every ray another oversoul for you, and another ray over here, ray there, is an oversoul for me, and then it continues. Wow. That's good stuff.
when we have a ray of creation and we're regarding the oversoul through a ray of creation, what does that mean? It's a ray of creation. Great. What I mean by a ray of creation that has its own intrinsic nature with its own characteristics that are unique to it versus the other rays is the best way to describe it would be if we look at all of the different countries here on Earth. We look at, let's say, India. And if we were to not have any clue what being human means, let's say we're an alien, we came to Earth and we don't know what being human is. So we go to India and we see all of the different customs, the belief systems, all of the different ways that they interact and engage with one another in India only. And then we see their traditions, all of that stuff. What food they eat, how they acquire that food, all of those things. We could look at that we know, because we're earthlings, that that is just how India does the human experience. But if we were an alien and we were not to know that humans do other ways of being a human, we would look at India and just go, oh, that's what being human is. That's kind of like what the oversoul is on a larger level. All of the different oversouls have their own unique characteristics, perceptions, intrinsic natures of how they do infinity.
Wow.
So Americans might play the role of being a human way differently than Indians, but they're still humans, right? And then also British people, and so forth and so on. So every single culture and distinct even continent, and then we go into that even.
It's like that oversoul creates an individuality out of the obsolete when it was no thing, right? Because there was no reflection. You just were, right? Like she said, going into Logos until Logos became creative force, right? And then there's different branches or different rays of light connected that is like yours, maybe different than mine if it's culture. And she's just using culture as an example, but this is your journey differs than mine. Makes you in the individual different, even though we're the same light. But actually the individual, this is where you would get the difference, the soul or that which is different. That's heavy.
Even further, and then you have different cities that have different dialects, but they still speak the same language within that city or within that country. So all of these different ways that we can hone in on being human and then interpret it in our own way, even down to our dialects, even down to our slang words, all of that. If we were to not know and have any other reference point for being human, we might just go to one country, one continent, one culture, one religion, and think that, oh, that's what humans do. But we all know better than that.
Wow, that's the individual taking out of the cookie cutter. The oversouls are not all the same. Your oversoul is connected to what you came from. Wow, that's a family, and that's why I get why it says that. I've known about it, but she's kind of this makes sense in higher levels. Wow.
And that's what the oversoul is. The oversoul is like just one unique characteristic, intrinsic way of perceiving all of existence. So another way of saying that an oversoul is a ray of the absolute that has its own intrinsic perception and its own unique characteristics. It can also just be that a ray that is the oversoul has certain themes, because a unique expression or a unique perception can also just be looked at as there are certain really prominent themes that are very relevant and very uniquely, intimately intertwined into the way that that oversoul gets expressed in nature. So we can look at, once again, another way of saying oversoul is a unique expression of the all. So if the all, the monad, if it's everything, then the oversouls would be all the different expressions. If we're Gnostic, we might look at them as eons. But there are all these different expressions that are going here. This is how I do the all. This is how I perceive the all. This is my unique creative rendition of the all. And that's all the different oversouls. They have their own themes. They have their own strong perceptions, their own strong purpose, their own eccentric idiosyncrasies, all of that. All of the different oversouls still contain all of the information that is within their higher aspect, which is the monad. So they're all traced back to that singularity of that unmanifested state. But when they get into becoming an extension that is a ray with its own unique properties and its own unique perceptions and purpose and themes, that's when these oversouls start setting larger than life intentions for our, what we would consider incarnations here. So that's why there's certain themes that are very prominent in a person's life or even in their soul streams. It'll be because that when you trace back that soul to its larger entity, which is the oversoul, it's because whatever oversoul they're from is exploring certain themes that they're super interested in, that are a highlight of their own unique nature. And that doesn't mean that we only explore like one theme and our oversoul only has one theme going on. But what it does mean is that there's certain things that are more relevant for our incarnations, for our lives, than there might be for another oversoul, which will have different themes that they're exploring the breadth, the width, the range of. So everything that I have explained up until now has only been dealing with two layers of the oversoul. One, the monad, which is where all oversouls come from, and at the highest level of reality where we are all connected. And then the second layer is those emanations or those rays that outpour from that original causeless cause into creation. So these oversouls now are still containing within them even more oversouls. So the way that you could look at this is like those Russian dolls that have a smaller doll placed inside it, and then yet a smaller doll placed inside that, and a smaller doll. That's what the oversoul is once it's making that emanation. You have that second one where it becomes a ray. But from that ray, now there's oversouls that pop out like Russian dolls. It's because at that point, the oversoul, which is the ray that we are emanating from, is almost like a bungee jumping. It's holding that higher focus point while it's pouring all the way, exploring all the way down to the farthest end of where that bungee cord will go.
Wow.
So the whole way that it's able to manifest its essence and its emanation lower and lower into physical realms and even denser realms and all of the many different planes or dimensions is because the oversoul is unpacking its thought form, its creative expression of the all. And while it's unpacking it, it's almost like unfolding downward more. So it's creating a fractal of itself, which is still considered the oversoul. So it's just unfolding, or the better word.
Wow, I got to hear what she's got to say about the better word, but this is really good stuff, because I'm definitely, there's all kinds of stuff coming to me now that she hit the fractals. I've been talking with the fractals for months, right? Then she talked about the oversoul, and I've seen this oversouls are like families, right? But there was something that she was saying in the fractals of it, of the unfolding. And I think about the scripture that I would revelate a long time ago, years ago, and it was the manifold wisdom, and I was seeing that was unfolding wisdom. The scripture says wisdom, but It's the oversoul unfolding. Wow. I'm gonna let her say, because she said she's gonna come up with a better description than she did before I put her on pause.
What I used was, it's just unfolding its fractal nature, but
Wow.
it's still containing all of the information of that original ray, of that original
Even
oversoul.
with the fractures, okay.
So just because it's in a fractal form, and that's what a fractal means anyways. A fractal means that all of the information within the original blueprint, within that original fingerprint, shall we say, of existence,
DNA, yeah.
is contained, yet in a smaller version. Some people view that as still being the original.
That would be the datagram. Remember when we just did that yesterday, right? I brought out the datagram 2 days ago, right? And I'm recording this the same day. That's why I'm having to scamper, because when this is released, this is probably, released, I think, not the video before, but the one before this one, 2 away from this one, I went into the datagram and showing you how the datagram was actually condensed, like broken to pieces, the fractals, and then put back together into a datagram before it can be sent and routed, right? Yeah, let her go.
Original ray of creation. They still view it as, no, that's the oversoul, and it's not unfolding like a fractalized Russian doll popping out lower. It's still that original expression of the all. But then another popular viewpoint is that it's different oversouls because they're operating at different dimensions. And because they're operating in a different dimension, they have to continue to divide itself. And the more that an oversoul divides into different soul units, those create, we could look at it like a hierarchy. And that hierarchy now would be considered an oversoul still for every different branch of souls that are contained within that group unit. To try to make any of this understandable, let's look at video games. We could look at the controller,
computer.
The person who's playing the video game, who's holding a controller, as one soul. And then let's say they're not just playing with one controller. Let's pretend that they have 10 controllers that they're playing that are all connected to the video game equipment, but that they're playing 10 different controllers, 10 different characters all at once. Each one of those characters that are a part of that video game controller unit would be considered a soul stream. So it's its own individual soul. But when we look back to all 10 controllers, we'll see that they're all being played by one character. And that would be what we would consider the oversoul. So the oversoul is playing one controller that has its own character in the video game, and then another one and another one. And to say 10 would be really reductive because it's actually now synergistically amplified. So it's not just 10 that one oversoul's playing. It's like 144,000. So 144,000 different individual soul streams, or let's call them soul units, can all be traced back to one oversoul. And then that oversoul can still yet be a part of a larger oversoul that is, once again, a part of a video game stream. So it's all streams, which is why we call them rays, which is why the best way to sum up these concepts in mysticism is always used as emanations. Because when we start talking about the realm of the oversoul and the soul, they can only be described in words such as essence, emanations, rays. So there's just all these different streams that are traced back up to one oversoul. And then that oversoul is a part of a larger stream that is traced back up to this oversoul, and so forth, until all of the oversouls with all of the different streams that are carried within the oversoul all get traced back up into the monad. So each oversoul, which is a creative expression of the all, contracts itself. And when it contracts itself, it divides further into separate soul units, or what I said earlier, into different soul streams. And those soul streams would each be our individuated self. So our soul...
That's what I was seeing. I was seeing even within the oversoul kind of became individual, even though it's connected to the oversoul operating from that. But I was seeing from the Monet of nothing reflects and all is just, it just is. There's no reflection. There's no need to now with the Monet, now the creative essence of came through the logos to the creative power of the spoken it. Wow, word. This is really good stuff. This really makes sense.
Stream
Wow.
is the difference between another person's soul stream and another person's soul stream, even if we all share the same oversoul. We're those individual expressions of that oversoul, which is depicted as a soul stream. So the souls that we share an oversoul with is the deepest meaning of the term soul family. If you'd like to know more about this concept of soul family, you can watch my video on this topic titled Your Soul Family. Within our soul family, or oversoul, we have karmic partners. So all of those karmic relationships that we play out really harsh and tenuous lessons with are a part of our oversoul. We have soulmates, and then we have our twin flames. So if somebody resonates with the twin flame paradigm, I know that that can be a very polarizing paradigm. We either love it or hate it. If we look at it from the level of the oversoul, it's simply the soul unit's most closest split off from
Wow.
all
From
the
you,
other
from
soul units. So
from
it's the
you.
closest core frequency to our own, embodied in another person. All three of these categories fall under the larger category of soulmates because they're a part of our oversoul. So all of our most core and basic themes that we wish to experience as the intention for an incarnation or several incarnations all get played out dominantly through the oversoul. And they're just different extensions or soulmates that we're playing them out and learning them through. In more modern forms of esoteric traditions, the Christ is even known for being the oversoul of the world. So all of the souls encompassed within the world would be known as the Christ, being the name of that oversoul, where all of them are included in. That's not in every tradition, that's just what sometimes the Earth's oversoul is referred to as. It's also known when we're talking about just the oversoul for all of the souls on Earth. It's known as the Tree of Life, or in Nordic traditions as Yggdrasil. So there's a lot of different ways that this concept of an oversoul can be perceived. But the one that I find personally to be the most helpful and direct would be to know that it is an expression. It is a way of being that is unique of the all. No different than how the color blue still contains the information of all of the other colors because it's traced back to that white light, but it's still utterly blue. And it's exploring just how blue can get, and so forth with all of the different colors. What this also means is that you could be interacting every day with another individual who shares the same oversoul with you, or you could never run into them in one life. Or they could be in an animal form. They could be playing out the themes that are being explored by that oversoul in the animal kingdom, or at a higher dimensional layer of reality that we cannot perceive at the moment. So we can be interacting with aspects, other facets of our oversoul, yet still be individual soul units. And so one of the goals within the spirit of this age is to embody our higher self and our higher self's essence to such a degree that our individual soul unit can start integrating its way back up into its oversoul.
Wow, that's what I was thinking.
Literally, like,
Wow, I gotta pause there. I know we only got 25 seconds left. That's heavy, because that's what I was thinking about. And I was even thinking about through a process of integrating to higher, we actually become that over, and then we become an oversoul. And that's something she hasn't said yet. That's just something I'm picking up, because this is definitely, I'm revelating. I'm seeing something that I can't put into words fully yet, but I'm definitely tasting.
one part of this entire talk made sense. If not, ask your oversoul. Make sure to subscribe to my channel for higher dimensional guidance through spiritual awakening. See you next time.
Wow, that's heavy. Yeah, that is really, 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 for me, that's next level stuff, because I was definitely looking at this to share in where I was at, and I was going to go a different way. And I was stopped by about oversoul or higher self, right? But I could see our higher self is kind of the individual, even with us, our higher self that is going to merge in the higher frequency. I'm gonna get on this later. That was a great video. We'll talk about this again in the near future. Wow, I am definitely. I'm gonna probably, yeah. I will get back to y'all soon on this one. This is wow. Yes. This is what really gets me. I'm just like awareness of what's been said and what I'm feeling and seeing and hearing. But you guys have a great day. Love you, appreciate, share, comment, share and comment. And please, as you share and comment, please like and share with anybody that you would think would be open to more of this great knowledge that we're trying to rise. While many want us to sink in a system that's sinking, and we're rising, we're risers, right? Have a great day.